Every year, the Scotch whisky industry ships over 1.4 billion bottles worldwide. And every year, the biggest brands quietly raise their prices, water down their product to the legal minimum, and strip out flavor with chill filtration so it looks prettier on the shelf. You are paying for the label, not the liquid. Today we are calling out 7 single malt brands that are robbing you blind, and 7 that actually deliver. Grab a glass, let us start with the 7 that are robbing you. Number 7. The Singleton 12-year-old. The Singleton is not even a real distillery. It is a brand name Diageo invented in 2006 to slap on whiskey from 3 different distilleries. Glenord in the Highlands, Dufftown in Speyside, and Glendullan also in Speyside. Which one you get depends on what country you buy it in. Glenord goes to Asia, Dufftown goes to Europe, Glendullan goes to North America. 3 different whiskies with 3 different flavor profiles hiding behind the same label at 40% chill filtered with caramel coloring. Diageo positioned it as a gateway into single malts, which is corporate speak for designed to be as inoffensive as possible, so it sells in volume. The Singleton moves roughly 800,000 cases a year. One Diageo executive publicly bragged about charging 40% more in Taiwan by simply adding 1 additional year of aging. That tells you everything about how this brand is managed. At $35 to $50, you are buying a product engineered in a boardroom. Number 6. Bowmore. 12-year-old. Bowmore is the oldest distillery on Islay, founded in 1779. That heritage should mean something, but their 12-year-old official bottling is one of the most divisive whiskies in Scotch. Read the reviews on any major whiskey retailer, and you will find people calling it everything from excellent to the worst whiskey I have ever had. Some describe it as beautifully balanced. Others say it tastes like wet cardboard and burnt plastic. That is not complexity. That is inconsistency. It is bottled at 40%, chill filtered and loaded with caramel coloring. Beam Suntory owns it and has stripped this whiskey to its bare minimum. The frustrating part is that independent bottlers who get Bowmore casks at cask strength without chill filtration produce stunning whiskey from this distillery. The spirit itself is excellent. What Beam Suntory does to it before it reaches you is the entire problem. At $45 to $55, you are getting a neutered version of what Bowmore actually tastes like. Number 5. Talisker 10-year-old. Talisker used to be one of the easiest recommendations in Scotch. It is a peated island malt from the Isle of Skye, with sea salt, black pepper, and campfire smoke. And at 45.8% alcohol by volume, it is actually respectable, which makes this one different from the other overpriced picks. The liquid is not the problem. The price is. 5 years ago, this bottle was $45 to $50. Today it runs $60 to $80 depending on where you live. The whiskey has not changed. Diageo's pricing strategy has. Multiple critics have noted that recent bottlings feel diminished compared to older versions of the same expression. One reviewer specifically said Talisker's price hikes and seeming decline in quality mean the brand barely registers on their radar anymore. At $65 or more, Talisker 10 is no longer the no-brainer it used to be. It is now competing against bottles from smaller distilleries that offer equal or better whiskey for significantly less money. Number 4. Balvenie 12-year-old Doublewood. Balvenie is genuinely beloved, and the Doublewood is not bad whiskey. It spends 12 years in bourbon casks, then 9 months in Oloroso sherry. Tasting notes include honey, vanilla, and dried fruit. The distillery even maintains its own malting floor and cooperage, which is rare, but this bottle used to cost $30 to $40. Today it runs $65 to $80. The whiskey did not get 60% better. William Grant & Sons know that Balvenie's reputation lets them charge whatever they want. At 43% alcohol by volume with chill filtration, you are paying premium prices for what used to be a no-brainer daily drinker. Number 3. Glenlivet 18-year-old. Glenlivet is one of the 2 biggest names in single malt alongside Glenfiddich. The 12-year-old practically invented the category for American drinkers, but the 18-year-old is where the name tax really kicks in. It runs $85 to $110 and is bottled at 43% in the US. It is chill-filtered and uses caramel coloring. For an 18-year-old single malt at that price, you should be getting natural color and non-chill filtration at minimum. Instead, you are getting the Glenlivet name applied to a whiskey that, while perfectly pleasant, does not justify the price gap over their own 12-year-old. When critics describe a $100 bottle as pleasant and approachable, that is not a compliment at that price point. That is a polite way of saying it lacks the depth and complexity that the price tag promises. There are 18-year-old single malts from smaller distilleries at the same price with more character, higher proof, and no artificial shortcuts. Number 2. Oban 14-year-old. Oban is Diageo's second smallest distillery with only 2 pot stills. They cannot make much whiskey, so instead of keeping the price honest, Diageo has pushed it from $50 a decade ago to $75 to $95 today. Some markets are seeing it over $100. 43% of the bottling is chill filtered. The distillery uses worm tub condensers, which should give the spirit real weight, but Diageo dials that character back before bottling. Multiple enthusiasts have pointed out that Craigellachie 14, another Diageo Highland malt, offers a similar coastal profile with more complexity at a lower price. Even Diageo's own portfolio undercuts Oban. Number 1, Glenfiddich 18-year-old, the best-selling single malt in the world. The 18-year-old sells for $120 to $180. In the UK, it is bottled at just 40% alcohol by volume. The US version is 43%, but it is still chill-filtered regardless. In 2026, multiple critics described recent bottlings as feeling diminished. One reviewer called it anemic and fragile compared to what it used to be. And Glenfiddich's own 15-year-old, which uses their unique Solera system, consistently gets better reviews at half the price. When your cheaper bottle outperforms your expensive one, something has gone wrong. That is the overpriced list. 7 single malts where the price tag does not match what is inside. But here is the thing. For the same money, and often less, there are distilleries doing everything the big brands refuse to do. Higher proof, no chill filtration, no artificial colouring, and whiskey that actually tastes like the people making it give a damn. Now let us flip it. Back to number 7. Number 7, Tomatin 12-year-old. Tomatin sits in the Highlands near Inverness and is one of the most underappreciated distilleries in Scotch. Bourbon barrels and sherry casks, 43% alcohol by volume, priced around $30 to $45. Baked apple, vanilla, butterscotch, and warm cinnamon. It drinks like something twice the price. Founded in 1897, the distillery produces over 5 million litres a year, but most of it disappears into blends. The current ownership, Japanese company Takara Shuzo, has invested heavily in the single malt range, but the name recognition has not caught up. No brand awareness means no brand tax built into the bottle price. No Super Bowl commercials means no marketing markup. Just solid Highland whiskey at a number that makes the overpriced bottles on this list embarrassing. Their cask strength expression, priced at $50 to $60, is one of the best value propositions in Scotch right now. Number 6. Glen Garioch 12-year-old. Glen Garioch is the furthest east distillery in Scotland, sitting in Aberdeenshire. It is owned by Beam Suntory, the same company that bottles Bowmore at 40% with chill filtration. But here is the irony. With Glen Garioch, the company does the opposite. The Glen Garioch 12 is bottled at 48%, non-chill filtered, matured in bourbon and sherry casks, and sells for around $45 to $60. That is 8% more alcohol than Bowmore for the same money, with none of the industrial processing. Founded in 1797, it is one of the oldest distilleries in Scotland and still produces in small batches. It offers sweet porridge, brown sugar, baked pears, and a salty finish that grips your palate. The distillery even brought back its own malting floors recently. At a 48%, this whiskey has real weight and texture that you simply do not get from 40% bottles. This is what happens when a major company actually lets a distillery show its character instead of stripping it away. If you are finding this helpful, hit subscribe. We break down spirits and help you spend smarter every week. Number 5. Benromach 10-year-old. Benromach is owned by Gordon and MacPhail, one of the most respected independent bottlers in Scotland since 1895. They have been in the whisky business longer than many distilleries have existed. The distillery sits in Speyside, near the town of Forres, and produces a style that is genuinely unusual for the region. It is a lightly peated malt with real depth. 43% alcohol by volume, aged in bourbon and sherry casks and priced at $40 to $55. The peat is not Islay level. Think gentle campfire rather than a burning hospital. It gives the whisky a backbone that Speyside rarely produces. Benromach was also the first distillery in Scotland to achieve organic certification for some releases. When you combine Gordon and MacPhail's century-plus experience with a distillery that takes creative risks, you get a 10-year-old that embarrasses 12 and 15-year-old whiskies from bigger brands. Number 4. Benriach the 12. Benriach is a Speyside distillery now owned by Brown-Forman, the same company behind Jack Daniel's and Woodford Reserve. Their 12-year-old was completely reformulated in 2020 under master blender Rachel Barry. She rebuilt the range from the ground up, and the result is a different animal from what came before. Triple cask matured in bourbon, sherry, and port casks. 46% alcohol by volume, not chill filtered, $55 to $65. The port cask influence adds layers of dark berry fruit and chocolate that you rarely find in Speyside at this price. It won double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition in 2021 and scored 95 points at the Ultimate Spirits Challenge. For roughly the price of a Glenlivet 18, you get more proof, better cask work, and no artificial processing. That is what competition looks like when a distillery actually tries to win you over with the liquid instead of the label. Number 3. Deanston 12-year-old. Deanston should make every overpriced brand on this list uncomfortable. 46.3%, non-chill filtered, no caramel colouring, natural colour only. $40 to $60. Read that list again. Higher proof, no artificial processing, honest presentation, and it costs less than Oban, less than Balvenie Doublewood, and dramatically less than Glenfiddich 18. Deanston sits in the Highlands in a converted cotton mill and is the only distillery in Scotland that is entirely self-sustaining for electricity, running its own hydroelectric dam on the River Teith. The 12-year-old is matured exclusively in ex-bourbon casks and delivers honeycomb, barley sugar, citrus, and a waxy mouthfeel that has drawn comparisons to bottles costing twice as much. Master blender Julianne Fernandez described it as summer in a glass. When a distillery gives you 46.3% natural colour and non-chill filtration at this price, it tells you their priority is the whisky, not the marketing budget. Number 2. Glen Scotia 15-year-old. Glen Scotia is one of only 3 surviving distilleries in Campbelltown, a region that once had over 30 distilleries at its peak in the late 1800s. Today the town has 3 Glen Scotia, Springbank, and the recently reopened Glen Garioch. That scarcity makes Campbelltown whiskey genuinely special. It is matured in first fill bourbon casks with a sherry finish. 46% alcohol by volume, non-chill filtered, and priced at $65 to $80. Expect maritime salt from the Mull of Kintyre coastline, dried fruits, vanilla, an oily waxiness, and a finish that keeps going long after you swallow. Campbelltown malts carry something in their DNA that other regions cannot replicate. It is the sea air in the warehouses, the specific microclimate, the water. Glen Scotia has been winning serious awards recently, and the online whiskey community is paying close attention, but the prices have not caught up yet. This is the window you want to jump through. Once Campbelltown gets the mainstream recognition it deserves, and it is coming, these bottles will not stay at this price for long. Buy it while the tourists are still driving past Campbelltown on their way to Islay. Number 1. Craigellachie 13-year-old. Craigellachie sits in Speyside, surrounded by famous neighbours like Macallan, Glenfiddich, and Aberlour. While those distilleries chase mainstream appeal with smooth, inoffensive expressions, Craigellachie leans into everything that makes it weird. Their tagline is a most dangerous dram. It is 46% non-chill filtered with no caramel colouring, and it typically costs $55 to $65. It is one of the few distilleries still using traditional worm tub condensers instead of modern shell and tube systems. Worm tubs create a heavier, meatier spirit with more character. The distillery also has exclusive use of the only oil-fired malting drum at the Glenesque maltings, leaving a savoury, almost umami-like depth in the spirit you will not find anywhere else in Speyside. The result is tropical fruit, toasted hazelnuts, honey and campfire smoke all at once. The Craigellachie 31-year-old won World's Best Single Malt at the 2017 World Whiskies Awards. The 13-year-old shares that DNA at a fraction of the cost. Every expression in the range is non-chill, filtered, natural colour and 46%. Compare that to the overpriced list where 40% chill filtered and caramel coloured is the standard. This is what happens when a distillery prioritises the whiskey over the quarterly earnings call. Craigellachie 13-year-old is the bottle that proves you do not need to spend $100 to get world-class Scotch, you just need to know where to look. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing and we'll see you in the next one.